from the municipalities who might have passed away, Amakhosi and Izinduna who have recently passed away, the recent casualties of road accidents in the province, and all public servants of this province and the country at large. Honorable members, let us now observe a moment of silence to honor all those who have departed from the physical world. Imiphefumulo yabo ingaphumula ngonaphakade. Honorable members, you are reminded that this virtual sitting is being conducted in terms of the rules of virtual meetings read with our existing standing rules. In terms of Rule 6 of the rules for virtual meetings, the quorum requirement for virtual sittings of the House is provided for in the Constitution and the standing rules of the KZN Legislature. Standing Rule 44 of the standing rules provides as follows, I quote, "At least 1/3 of all the members of the legislature must be present to constitute a plenary meeting of the legislature," close quote. The rules for virtual meetings also define present as follows. Present means the attendance of a member in a virtual meeting by electronic means in a manner that allows the member to join and participate in the meeting. Honorable members, the Secretary has confirmed that we have the required 1/3 of members present in order to commence with the virtual sitting. The sitting is therefore properly constituted. Rule 7D of the rules for virtual sittings also state that the presiding officer on party voting, the presiding officer must before or at the start of the discussion on the matter expressly inform members if a party vote will be taken. In line with the above, honorable members, I inform you that voting on the KwaZulu-Natal Authorization of Unauthorized Expenditure Bill 2021 will be done on a party-by-party basis. A party vote is a collective vote on behalf of all the members of a party present at this virtual sitting, up to the total membership of that party in the sitting. However, I will allow an opportunity for any individual member to vote differently from his or her party, or to abstain if any member wishes to do so. We will now proceed with the other matters, honorable members, and we go to the apologies. We have received and approved the following apologies. Apology from Honorable Mr. S. Zigalala, Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, who will not be able to attend today's sitting as he will be accompanying His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa during an official visit to the Port of Durban. Together with the Premier, it will also be Honorable R.R. Pillay, MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, as well as Honorable Ms. N.P. Nkonyeni, MEC for Transport, Community Safety and Liaison. They are all together with the Premier in the official business in the Port of Durban. The Honorable V.R. Mlotshwa has tendered an apology for his absence today due to his party commitments. We also have members that are not well, that I request that we put them in our prayers. The Honorable Mr. M.W. Twala of the EFF is unwell. Honorable Ms. P.A.T.N. Buthelezi is also visiting a doctor today. Honorable members, we want to recognize the honorable members who have held their birthday. Honorable Ms. S. Hussein celebrated her birthday on Thursday, the 1st of April. Today is also the birthday of the Honorable Mr. S. Sinkosi, the chairperson of the Finance Committee. May you have a day filled with joy and all your heart's desires, honorable member. The Honorable Mr. Zet Mwango had his birthday on the 14th of April. And now I will also wish those that are still going to have their birthday in advance. The Honorable Miss N.R. Majola, the 16th of April. Honorable Mr. B. Singh on the 20th of April. Honorable Bishop E.V. Dube on the 23rd of April. And Honorable Mr. M. Kaula on the 28th of April. On behalf of all the members, honorable members, those who have celebrated their birthdays and those who are yet to celebrate, I would like to wish all of you a wonderful year ahead. May you remain blessed. Honorable members, understanding that there is the holy month of Ramadan, may I wish all members of our Muslim community well as they enter the holy month of Ramadan. And Ramadan is remembered as the month in which the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, received the first of the revelations which make up the Holy Quran. We want to say to all of the Muslim community as they continue with the month of prayer, may all the wishes of the country and of the world be realized. Honorable members, we also thought that we must remind honorable members about some housekeeping matters that relate to the rules. Reminder to members about rules of debate. You are honorable members are reminded that maintaining the decorum of the House is important and a requirement at all times in order to keep this House a House that is honorable. You are also allowed, honorable members, that in a debate you invoke Standing Rule 7.3, which states as follows: acting for absent member, subject to sub-rule 2, a member may take charge of a motion or an order of the day in the absence of the member in charge, provided that he or she has been authorized to do so by the absent member. 2, a member may not take charge of a motion or an order of the day on behalf of an MEC. In other words, honorable members, a member may stand in for another member in certain instances, provided that he or she has been given permission to do so by the absent member. However, protocol must be observed at all times, and the matter must be brought to the attention of the presiding officer and the table staff timeously, so that it is communicated with the whips. Should circumstances arise that such timeous notification is not possible, it is incumbent upon a member standing in for another member to formally request the indulgence of the presiding officer and wait for permission to be granted. In this way, courtesy is shown not only to the presiding officers, but also to other members and members of the public who have taken the time to follow the proceedings of the House via social media platforms. We also want to remind members to email or leave their speeches of debate with the staff at the table. It is vital that all members who take part in debates email the electronic copies of their speeches to Hansard after delivery. At times, the quality of the acoustics during debate has proved to be challenging, and this is usually due to connectivity problems. This is not a problem which IT has any control over, and I therefore request all whips to ensure that their party members who are scheduled to speak during a debate email their speeches to Mr. Alan Parrott at the language services, as well as Ms. Jackie Stone at the Hansard and language services. We expect members to cooperate with this request and thank them in advance for their considerations. Honorable members, you are urged to submit your disclosure of financial interest forms. The deadline for submission is the 30th of April 2021, and for any assistance in this regard, please liaise with Mr. Nishan Sukraj, who's the manager at Legal Services. Ms. Wendy Landsberg from PAMED is available between 10 o'clock and 2 p.m. today to assist honorable members with queries. Members will find her in the Members' Affairs Office. So we remind you, members that want to raise any queries with the PAMET medical aid to please go there. Honorable members, we will now go to item number 4, announcements or reports by the Premier. Members of the Executive Council, any?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Dube, the LOGP.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we wish to make the following announcement from the Premier. The Honorable Premier today, as the Honorable Premier, Honorable Speaker, has good morning, Honorable Speaker and Honorable members. The message from the Honorable Premier is that His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, is leading a delegation for an oversight visit to the Port of Durban to assess the progress in enhancing the efficiency and the competitiveness of the port. The President will be accompanied by the various ministers, Minister Gordon, Minister of Transport, Mbalula, and the Premier, as well as the Mayor of eThekwini, as well as the MECs of our province. The President is also due to receive a report from the management of the port on the Durban Port Master Plan, as well as receiving a report from the Premier on the work that is jointly being done by the port and the government of KwaZulu-Natal. The message, the other message as well is on behalf of the provincial government, the Honorable Premier has also welcomed the latest report from the Auditor General, which points to the marked improvement in the audit outcomes for our provincial government departments. While the AG's report has outlined present and potential risks, such as medical claims against the Department of Health and the overall AG's report, it is a proof, though, that there is an improvement and it is recognizable effort that our departments are making. This time last year, at the release of the 2018-19 outcomes, the Honorable Premier pledged to deliver a qualitatively better, improved AG's report. And the Premier continues to share the audit improvement plan. Yesterday, as a result of that, he had another marathon session, which finished at about 9 o'clock p.m., which was dealing with each and every department with all the MECs, again, looking at the audit improvement plan. The Premier wishes to recognize and congratulate all the departments, especially the Provincial Treasury, for its role in mainstreaming Operation Clean Audit, which is beginning to yield results. The Premier also wished to equally request that all those departments that continues to thrive, to be better, the state-owned agencies to also ensure that they continue to be better. And the Premier also wished to congratulate all government departments overall that have improved in their audit outcomes. The Premier also wishes, Madam Speaker, during this auspicious month of Ramadan, which for Muslims, brothers and sisters, is a time for fasting, reflection, contemplation, and celebration. We take this opportunity to wish all our Muslim brothers, families in KwaZulu-Natal and the rest of the world a spiritually uplifting and joyous Ramadan. On behalf of the provincial government, we would like to convey to all our Muslim believers during this important time in the calendar of their faith that as people of KwaZulu-Natal we take example from the charitable, compassionate acts they perform in the spirit of Ramadan. As the government of KwaZulu-Natal, we join millions around the world as we pray the crescent-shaped moon of Ramadan. May it brighten the path of our Muslim brothers and sisters towards enlightened and prosperity, peace, joy, and hope. The Premier also wishes all our brothers and sisters from the Tamil communities a happy new year. To all our brothers and sisters, may it bring peace and prosperity, love to all our families and our lives. May peace be upon all of us. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable LOGB. We will now go to item 5, which is tablings. The first one is from the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Their report on the KwaZulu-Natal Unauthorized Expenditure Bill 2021. The second one is the report on the Multi-Party Women's Caucus Capacity Building Workshop held in the Mhlatuze Council Chamber on 04. Workshop on etiquette held on the 8th of July 2020 and the 9th of February 2021. The report of the Party Women's Caucus on the Gender Responsive Budgeting and Planning Workshop held via a virtual platform on the as well as the report of the Multi-Party Women's Caucus on Capacity Building Workshop on Protocol, held on virtual platform on the 6th of May 2020. The Portfolio Committee on Education report on state of KZN agricultural focused schools. They also report on schools functionality monitoring program of 2021 and the report on visits to the National Senior Certificate Examinations Marking Centers. Then the fourth one is from the Department of Education, their annual performance plan for 2021-2022, strategic plan for 2021-2022, Department of Arts and Culture, Annual Performance Plan 2021-22, Department of Community Safety and Liaison, Annual Performance Plan 2021-22, Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, Agribusiness Development Agency, Annual Performance Plan for 2021-2022, Agribusiness Development Agency Organizational Annual Operational Plan, for the 2021-2022 financial year, Agribusiness Development Agency, their MTSF Implementation Plan for 2021-2022. The next tabling is from the Department of Health, their Annual Performance Plan for 2021-22 to 2023-24. The Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Ilembet District Municipality Annual Report for 2019-2020, Nongoma Local Municipality Annual Report for 2019-2020, Reinkonyeni Municipality Annual Report for 2019-2020. The Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, tabling the KwaZulu-Natal Sharks Board Annual Performance Plan for 2021-2022. The Department of Sports and Recreation Annual Performance Plan for 2021-2022. Honorable members, is there any tabling that might not have been recorded? I am giving this opportunity to any chairperson or member of the Executive Council that wants to make a tabling. Seeing that there is none, we now move to item number 6, formal motions or notices by the Chief Whip. Honorable Chief Whip. Oh, the Deputy Chief Whip.
There are no formal notices and motions. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. We will now move to item 7, orders of the day. Honorable members, the first order of the day is the debate on Human Rights Day celebration. And to start off this debate, we are going to receive the report on Human Rights Day celebrations on behalf of the Premier by the Honorable Leader of Government Business, MEC for Finance in the province, the Honorable Ms. Ndube for 30 minutes. Hello, GP.
Right. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable LOGP?
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, we're waiting for you, your time.
Oh. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Premier would like to report, Honorable Speaker, the honorable members and the leadership of the Legislature. Thank you for the opportunity to report back on this August House on the Human Rights Month, which is marked each year during this month of March. We gather to report on a few days into the holy month of Ramadan, a month which is a cornerstone of our Islam. Once again, we wish our Muslim community in our province and all over our country a blessed Ramadan. History record that side by side with our Muslim, Hindu, Christian, and all our Jewish compatriots and many more faith communities, we were able to tear down the walls of racial divisions and usher a new society founded on religious tolerance and pillars of unity, non-racialism, non-sexism, equality, justice, and shared prosperity. This sitting also takes place a few days before we commemorate 27 years of democracy, of freedom from the clashes of racial tyranny and evil of national oppression. It was this breakthrough on the 27th of April 1994 that gave all South Africans an opportunity to draft a new constitution as our new covenant and the supreme law of the land. We celebrate this constitution not just as the foundation of a new society based on the values of the human dignity, justice, and equality, but because of its explicit adoption of the Bill of Rights in Section 27. Our Bill of Rights and the human rights that we enjoyed today were written on the blood of our freedom martyrs. As the ANC, we pride ourselves of having expressed this ideal for human rights in the 1943 African claims, long before the 1948 adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948. 25 years ago, signing the Constitution into the law during the International Human Rights Day on the 10th of December 2021 in Sharpeville, founding President Nelson Mandela said, and I quote, "Today we cross a critical threshold. Let us now, drawing strength from the unity which we have forged together, grasp the opportunity and realize the vision enshrined in this Constitution. Let us give practical recognition to the injustices of the past by building a close quote." Honorable members, last month our nation celebrated human rights under the constraining challenges under COVID-19, the global pandemic. Under the new normal, as it said, which is not normal at all, the main address was virtually to the nation by His Excellency, the President of the Republic, President Ramaphosa. The theme for human rights in 2021 was, and I quote, the year of Charlotte Maxeke, promoting human rights in the age of COVID-19. The name of our freedom pioneer, Umama Charlotte Maxeke, a sharp reminder that we are indeed standing on the shoulders of the giants and that we must never take for granted the freedom that was bequeathed on us. The story of Mama Charlotte Maxeke, who the ANC president, Dr. A.B. Xuma, called the mother of black freedom in South Africa, still needs to be told in its fullness. It was under the leadership of Mama Charlotte Maxeke and the Bantu Women's League, the predecessor to the ANC Women's League, that we say, as it turns the 20th century of the women's organized and resisted the Loth Pass laws, that the Pass laws were the notorious restrictive and controlling travel, dictating where and when, for how long black people of South Africa could stay within the so-called white areas. The struggle against the Pass laws was later taken up by more than 20,000 women who marched to the Union building on the 9th of August 1956, and in 57, it was the women of Zeerust who protested against these passes and the generational struggles which stripped black people of their humanity and made them the sojourners and the pariahs in the land of their birth, culminating in the Sharpeville massacre of the 21st of March 1960, which left its shadow of 69 peaceful protesters dead and 189 and more wounded. Human Rights Day is a celebration, but it is also a reminder of all citizens, of a solemn reminder that the suffering and the sacrifices of this terrible 1960 Sharpeville massacre and the struggle against apartheid, it is a time when we should reflect as the people of South Africa. 25 years later, at 21st, 1985, the same tragic incident befell the people of Langa in the Eastern Cape, who were mowed down by the police while attending a funeral of the slain comrade. No less than 35 people were killed and 27 wounded. These tragic incidents sadly remind us that people in South Africa lost their lives, that lelizwe lathathwa lahamba ngegazi nemphefumulo yabantu, that our forebears paid the ultimate price with their lives for us to attain the democracy that will recognize those human rights. Compatriots, for more than a year, we have been enveloped by the global heavy cloud that has wreaked havoc and in the health system and in the country and the whole world, decimating lives and the livelihood and the economy. Ever since the COVID-19 visited our shores, it has led and revealed itself as a pandemic that does not sleep, a pandemic that disregards human rights, that does not discriminate according to color, creed, class, or gender. Still, it is this pandemic that emphasized the deep-seated inequalities of our society and rendered the marginalized and the poor even more vulnerable. It is this reason that we must march ahead to transform apartheid's spatial planning, delivering quality service, ensuring the universal access of quality health care to all our communities. It is this tragic report that women whose rights have been trampled upon during centuries of colonialism and decades-long apartheid, bore the brunt of COVID-19 as incidents of gender-based violence and femicide increased on the daily basis as we witnessed. It is this COVID-19 that worsened the abuse of situations that are faced by women and children and families that were locked in confined spaces for longer periods because of lockdown regulations of COVID-19. It is the ultimate demise of our Majesty the King, Kabheka Zulu, our own Oga Bejane, mark the beginning of Human Rights Month on the very somber and the sad note. The longest reigning Imbube, KwaZulu, the Zulu nation, was a staunch opponent of a gender-based violence and femicide. Sithi umenjalo wena Kabhejane. His Majesty revered women and hailed the role played by Umkabayi Kajama in propping up the kingdom of the Zulu nation. Ubejane was the vociferous in condemning the killing of women of Umthwalume at the hands of the serial killer who allegedly later took his own life. A staunch advocate of women's rights, our king, Isilo Samabandla, said he was ashamed to call himself a leader of the nation that was mowing its own children, that was mowing its own Izimbali Zesizwe, the reckless and the abandoned. On his 50th Golden Jubilee as the reigning king of the Zulus, which would have taken place in December this year, His Majesty pleaded with all Zulu men to give an everlasting gift of eliminating all the gender-based violence and femicide in the province. The king emphasized that such a gift would make his reign peaceful and tranquil. Let us heed to the call of His Majesty and honor his memory by ensuring that we put an end to the gender-based violence and femicide, which continues to wipe away the gains of democracy and freedom. And it is that we will honor His Majesty and say, Wena Wesilo. During the year of Mama Charlotte Maxeke, a huge burden rests on the men's shoulders to make sure that women and girl children feel free to exercise their human rights of crisscrossing our province without having to fear being victimized or harassed or being looked down or being killed in the hands of our men. Killing women is not different from killing the future of our nation. A nation that kills its women and children is destroying its own self, its legacy. In 2021, let us heed to the call of Mama Charlotte Maxeke, who said, and I quote, "We want men who are the salvation of our young girls, of their nation, who can depend on the presence, and we want men who will humble themselves so that the nation may lift them up and to be stars of Africa for future generation." That is what Africa wants. That is what the women of Africa are weeping and praying for. And I close quote. In 2004, former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan put the importance of women in the context when he said these moving words about the importance of investing in women. And I quote, 60 years have passed since the founders of the United Nations inscribed on the first page of our chapter the equal rights of men and women. Since then, study and study after study has taught us that there is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women. No other policy is as likely to raise economic productivity, to reduce infant mortality. No other tool is as sure to improve nutrition and promote health, including the prevention of HIV and AIDS. No other policy is as powerful as increasing the chances of education for the next generation. And I would like also to venture that no policy is more important in preventing conflict or in achieving reconciliation after conflict has ended. But whatever the real benefits in investing in women, the most important fact remains: women themselves have the right to live in dignity, in freedom, to live in love and be loved from want and from fear. Close quote. Honorable members, we reiterate that women's rights are human rights. As province of KwaZulu-Natal, we continue to implement our provincial strategy aimed at reducing gender-based violence and femicide. We called on families not to protect perpetrators, working with the KZN men's sector. We will continue to advance prevention of gender-based violence by placing an emphasis on re-socializing of boy children to grow accepting that girls must be respected, that girls are their equals, not inferior. During the Human Rights Month, our province has planned to advance the human rights of farm workers. Throughout South Africa, farm workers have faced serious abuses and atrocities at the hands of the farm owners. The passing of His Majesty on the 12th of March, the morning thereafter, meant that to postpone some of the activities that we had earlier planned on the human rights. On the last day of the Human Rights Month, which is the 31st of March 2021, we were finally able to hold a provincial workshop of KZN farming community. Honorable Speaker, on the weekend of the 10th and the 11th of April on this year, we visited the northern Zululand farming district of Upongola, Vryheid, and Newcastle to engage with farm workers and farm dwellers on issues affecting them on the farms. The Premier was accompanied by the MEC of Agriculture and Rural Development, MEC Bongi Maschole Moloi, MEC Nomagugu Simelani Champion, Transport MEC Umama Neliswa Nkonyeni, MEC Human Settlement, Public Works, Ubaba Usbia, as well as the district mayors and local mayors. From our interaction with the farm dwellers and farm workers, it became abundantly clear that we still have a long way to go to ensure that farm workers and farm dwellers enjoy the fruits of freedom, which come in the form of human rights and the attainment of freedom, which many had to die for. On the Friday, the 9th of April, our spirits were dampened when we were greeted with shocking news that 2 farm dwellers were shot dead by the farmers in Piet Retief in Mpumalanga province while they were looking for employment in one of the farms in that area. It is such saddening and shattering news and tension that is prevailing in the farming communities, which has necessitated the need to engage the farm stakeholders to iron out the differences and pave the way forward for peace and stabilities amongst our communities. Our first engagement took to Zwati Sports Ground outside Opongolo, where hundreds of farm workers and farm dwellers braved the sweltering sun to attend our interactions with them. The farm dwellers and workers raised the various issues which plague them, the issues of trust committees overseeing reclaimed farms topped the agenda of these interactions. Many farm tenants and farm workers complained that the list of people who were supposed to benefit from the reclaimed farms was whittled down. The trustees added more people on the list who were not residents on the farms in question. Farm residents lamented the rampant corruption which characterized farm trusts. And as government, we assured the farm dwellers and the farm workers that we welcome the forensic investigation underway, which investigate allegations of corruption and maladministration on various trusts in the farming areas. We also recommended that trusts need to be audited to ascertain that they serve the purpose of helping the beneficiaries of land claims, not the self-interest of the trustees, who are hell-bent to loot the coffers meant for the beneficiaries. We also assured the farm workers and the tenants that as government, we will stand on the side of the truth when the forensic investigation is finalized. We will not be biased towards certain individuals. The issue of police bias against the farm workers and farm dwellers and the favor of farmers came up in almost all the 3 engagements that we held during our interaction. Farm dwellers complained that police were acting swiftly when complaints were raised by the farmers, but dragged their feet when the same complaints were raised by farm dwellers or farm workers. Fortunately, we were accompanied by the newly appointed KwaZulu-Natal Commissioner, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, in our farm road shows. Together with the IP, General Mkhwanazi is tasked with investigating the reports of alleged police bias against the farm dwellers and the workers. We expect to receive reports soon from the police. Women in these farming communities complained that gender-based violence was still very rife in the farms around Opongolo and pleaded for the need to intensify the fight against gender-based violence. There was also complaint about gangsterism, which was mushrooming in the area, where youngsters who frequent taverns engage in theft wars and rob the elderly of their grants or their pension money. There was a ray of hope in the engagement when one farm worker in Vryheid praised the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development workers who helped him in mushroom project with which was thriving. There were also complaints about the agriculture extension officers who did not help farm dwellers and farm workers with seedlings earmarked for the One Home, One Garden project. MEC Malloy, who was also part of the roadshow, promised to investigate the matter and take appropriate actions. The issue of roads and education of farm worker and farm children was also raised by the farm workers and farm dwellers. They complained about the absence of scholar transport to help learners that travel long distances to reach the schools. The farm children, it was reported, left their homes early in the morning and returned home late in the afternoons, which resulted in school dropouts and lack of focus in their schoolwork. Residents also complained about the roads, which resulted in fatal accident as they are not in good conditions. MECs of Transport, Community Safety and Liaison, MEC Nkonyeni, promised to attend to the matters of dangerous roads. The issue of scholar transport has been forwarded to MEC of Education, MEC Mshengu, to attend to. As government, we will not rest and farm dwellers is still with us. We will not rest until the issue of trusts that rob land claims and their beneficiaries is not resolved. It is in our hands to see to it that farm workers and farm dwellers are not treated as second-class citizens in their land of their birth. As government, we promise to do all in our power to ensure that farm workers and farm dwellers enjoy the fruits of their freedom and which their forebears fought for. We need to ensure that farm workers and farm dwellers enjoy the human right so that they can be able to live in their land and help in our province to grow into a fruitful and prosperous one. Following this engagement, we have established a cabinet committee that is led by MEC Malloy, which will address all the issues that have been raised by our communities. Honorable members, I urge this August House and our people to not look away when we see the human rights of our vulnerable people and our citizens being trampled upon. Let us all in this institution, including in our schools and universities, create a new man, a new woman, a new member of the community that advances the human rights, that advances the human freedom. As a provincial government, we will continue to advance poor people economic policies. We will continue to transform the economy for the benefit of all our communities, especially our women, our youth, and our poor in all areas. We urge all our stakeholders, including the civil society formations, to work with government in ensuring that the poorest of the poor can access their rights, and we must make sure that justice is accessible to all, not just to the rich. In that we do, let us recall the words of the global icon and champion for human rights, Utata Ubaba Madiba, who said, "To deny the people their rights and human rights is to challenge their humanity." It is indeed in our hands to create a new human rights ethos and expand the frontiers of freedom and the fulfillment of a dream for all our people and for all our communities. I thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable members.
Thank you, Honorable MEC.
Yeah.
I request the service officers to attend to Honorable Rogers. He seems to be having a challenge. Members may indicate. Honorable members, we are now going to start the debate. The first speaker is on behalf of the ANC, the Honorable LXH Hlongwa Madlala, the chairperson of Human Settlements, for 9 minutes.
Siyabonga Somlomo ngethuba osinikeza lona ukuba sibe nomnikelo oyaphambili kule nkulumo esiyethulelwe umhlonishwa uNzwakele egameni likaNdunankulu wesifundazwe sethu uKhuzeni ongekho phakathi kwale ndlu. Bingelela wena Somlomo, amalungu ahloniphekile kanye nabo bonke abasilandela einkundleni zokuxhumana zesishayamthetho sakithi. Ngifisa ukubonga kakhulu inhlangano ebusayo ngokuthi isinikeze nathi ithuba elincane nje lokuthi sibe ingxenye yalabo abangazukwedlula ngendlu kwakhiwa njengoba kusho isiZulu sakithi. Namhlanje Somlomo ngiqoka ukuthi ngikhulume ngolikaMthaniya nakuba ngizoboleka kolwasentshonalanga ngenxa ukuthi usuku lwamalungelo abantu nalo lufakile phakathi udaba lolimi. Ngakho ke Somlomo ngifisa ukuqala ngokuhlonipha umama uCharlotte Maxeke, inhlangano ebusayo ethande ukumhlonipha kulonyaka ngenxa yomnikelo wakhe esizweni sakithi. Umama uCharlotte Maxeke kanye nomama uRuth First kanye nomama uLillian Ngoyi bangabanye bomama ababeka izisekelo zenkululeko yeSouth Africa. Bangabanye bomama esithi uma sihlabelela sithi Nkosi sikelela iAfrika, sikhumbule umnikelo wabo. hayi kuphela uma sicula kanjalo, kodwa uma futhi sicula iculo esilazi sonke eliculwa ibandla laseweseli unumber 16 elithi lizalise idinga lakho Thixo Nkosi yenyaniso, zonke inhlanga zonke izizwe mazizuze usindiso. Sikusho lokhu somlomo ngoba suke siqonda kahle ukuthi labo mama baba ngumnikelo hayi kuphela ngokukhuluma ipolitiki, kodwa labo mama babeya futhi edolweni la kwazalwa khona intando yeningi. Okungijabulisa kakhulu ukuthi le nkulumo siyenza kule nyanga kaApril, okuyinyanga esithi inyanga yokuzalwa kabusha kwezwe, lingena kwidemocracy lapha abantu bonke bakithi banikezwa khona ithuba lokuthi bazicandulele bona indlela eyaphambili ngokuthi babhale umthethosisekelo ofake inhliziyo zabantu bakithi kanye nalabo ababecindezelwe. Namhlanje somlomo sizobheka umnikelo wensizwa eyaba incane kakhulu Solomon Mahlangu owabulawa uhulumeni wamabhunu ngonyaka ka1977. Siyajabula namhlanje somlomo ukuthi nakuba uSolomon Mahlangu afa ngendlela ebuhlungu afa ngayo, kodwa impilo kaSolomon Mahlangu iseyinhlizweni zethu sonke namhlanje. Udaba lwamalungelo abantu somlomo akulona nje udaba lwepolitiki, akulona nje udaba lwama-theories esingawafunda, kodwa udaba likaNkulunkulu. In the book of Isaiah 1 verse 17, we find the word of God saying, learn to do right, seek justice, relieve the oppressed, and correct the oppressor, defend the fatherless, plead for the widow. Solomon Mahlangu's life is better explained and captured in this verse. In his quest to seek justice for the oppressed, correcting the oppressor, and defending the fatherless, the firebrand young leader joined the African National Congress and the ANC's military wing, Umkhonto weSizwe, in 1976, with a view of waging a noble struggle from that platform. Little did he know that the apartheid government was setting an ambush to kill those who are defenders of justice and pleaders of the case of the poor. Whereas the apartheid government hanged Solomon Mahlangu for his beliefs, but however, they did not hang the epistle which he wrote in each and every one of our hearts. It is this poster bearing his name and a poetic quotation which reads, open quote, I quote, my blood shall nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. That is what keeps us going, honorable members, honorable speaker. Namhlanje masibheka impilo yaleli qhawe, siyabona ukuthi sonke njengabaholi sinomthwalo ukuthi sigijime ibanga sishiyele abeza emva kwethu. Ilo myalezo kaSolomon Mahlangu esehamba owenza ukuthi nokuba simi ezweni elifana njengeSouth Africa elilwa nobubha, ukungalingani, ungabikho kwemisebenzi, sibe nethemba nokukholwa ukuthi ukuma kwethu today la kuleshaya mthetho asikwenzeli ize. Abeza emva kwethu somlomo bayofunda ukuthi zikhona izinto esazenza. That is why I said earlier on, standing here is for me a privilege because it is about nation building. His pursuit for justice, equality, and humanity is a lesson our nation should learn, especially this time where we are battling with a lot of evils in our country, including GBV and femicide, as the Honorable Durban has mentioned. His life, though cut short, but he left us with a lesson of determination to fight an unjust system, even to the point of death. Noma ngabe kusho ukuthi somlomo umlando awusikhumbuli noma abantu basibiza ngamagama, kodwa ukulwa kwethu nesystem yencindezelo kumele kuqhubeke. Lesi sishayamthetho sime phakathi komlando la kufanele siqophe khona umlando ngokulwela amalungelo abampofu, amalungelo abacindezelwe, amalungelo abesifazane. Somlomo sizwile ngeviki elidlule ukuthi endaweni yalapha eMaritzburg, endaweni okuthiwa iKwaPata, kutholakala owesifazane ekhishwa amehlo namabele esikiwe. Ey'nsukwini nje ey'ntathu ezadlule sizwile futhi ukuthi laphaya esifundazweni saseMpumalanga abantu bakithi abebeyofuna umsebenzi eplazini babulawe kabuhlungu umlimi. Laphaya futhi e-Orange Farm Somlomo sifundile seza ukuthi abantwana babulawiswa okweyimpukane. Yilekhu-ke uSolomon Mahlangu namhlanje ngabe unamahloni akakhulu, ngabe he is hanging his head in shame. He would have spoken against these evils, but he would also have called on the Department of Justice and Correctional Service to fast-track gender-based violence cases and ensure that perpetrators are brought to book. Honorable Premier, in his speech as delivered by the leader of government business, Unzwakele, recalled the events that led to the Sharpeville massacre. It is in unity that the enemy is terrified. And as we all know that the peaceful protesters took to the streets lamenting the oppressive past laws, the events of 21 March 1960 will remain in our hearts forever, because although as the country we have made strides against oppression, we still have pockets of racial divide here and there in our country. Just last week, Honorable Speaker, namalunga ahloniphekile, ngiyacabanga ukuthi sonke siyibonile ivideo yomhlophe yomlisa omhlophe la ebekhuluma khona kabi ethuka noma eticelela phansi isithunzi sikamongameli wezwe ngendlela aphathe ngalo udaba lwe-COVID-19. Lokhu kusho ukuthi umthwalo usemkhulu ukuthi njengama-Afrika sibuyele ndawonye ukuze silwe ngempela nesitha, ngoba isitha sithokozi uma abantu behlangene noma be-united. Somlomo, ngiyafisa ukusho ukuthi uSolomon Mahlangu njengomama uCharlotte Maxeke nomama uRuth First nabanye abaholi bethu abahambe ngaphambi kwethu, omama uWinnie Madikizela Mandela, babelwela umzabalazo wokuthi silingane. Namhlanje uma sikhumbula ama-human rights noma amalungelo obuntu, siyakhumbula ukuthi neKwaZulu-Natal iqhamuka kuleso sikhathi, isikhathi esibi sokubulawa kwabantu ngezikhathi zodlame, isikhathi sokubulawa kwabesifazane nokudicilelwa phansi kwesithunzi salabo abangama-gays and lesbians. Ey'nsukwini ezedlula Somlomo, ngiye ngabuka ngokuyigqaja umsebenzi omkhulu isishayamithetho esiwenzile. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The next speaker for 10 minutes on behalf of the IFP is the Honorable V.F. Thabisa, Leader of Official Opposition.
Honorable Speaker and honorable members, today as we hold this debate, I want to begin by paying tributes to kings and queens who long ago waged wars in defense of their people and land against the British and the Boers, such as King Cetshwayo, King Dinuzulu, Queen Mantantise, King Hintsa, and many others who became foundations of the liberation struggle long before the political formations. The IFP also takes this opportunity to salute all the pioneers of our struggle that made contributions towards the present democratic South Africa. While paying tribute to these men and women, we must also reflect and take stock of the progress we have made as a country in advancing the cause of human rights since we achieved our freedom. The date 21 March also occupies a special place in the hearts of the whole leadership and membership of Inkatha Freedom Party. It was on 21 March 1975 when patriots, men and women of South Africa during the dark era in South Africa, in the South African politics, decided to meet at Wanzimela in Melmoth under the leadership of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi and formed the organization then known as the National Cultural Liberation Movement, which is now called Inkatha Freedom Party. Founded on this day, 21 March 1975, the National Cultural Liberation Movement, now Inkatha Freedom Party, raised the flag and the colors of the struggle for liberation. Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi became the only and lone voice that called for the release of Nelson Mandela and all other political prisoners. He also called for the unbanning and the return of all political organizations from exile. Honorable Speaker, it was not coincidental that the IFP was founded on this important day in our history. But Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi knew that a political voice of the Black people must be launched on this day, as on 21 March 1960, the human rights of the Black people of South Africa were grossly violated and abused. The IFP is proud to have been part of the constitution making pre-1994 at CODESA and post-1994 in the National Assembly. Our contribution as the IFP towards the 1996 Constitution of our country ensured that South Africa has a Bill of Rights as a standalone chapter of the new Constitution. Unfortunately, after such a great work and sacrifice by our patriots to free our people from oppression, the human rights abuses throughout the world has reached a stage of being a pandemic. South Africa is not immune from this human rights abuse. This poses the danger of reversing the gains of racial harmony and social cohesion that South Africa achieved through the constitutional making process of 1996. Whilst our constitution guarantees equality on paper, our people still suffer a lot of inequalities in the economy, in unemployment, at the workplaces, and in gender-based salaries. South Africa is one of the most unequal countries in the world. The outbreak of coronavirus has laid bare the big social and economic divide that still exists and persists in our communities of our country between the haves and the haves not. What has made things worse, South Africa has created a layer of rich individuals who are fortunate to have relations in higher positions. While most South Africans sink deeper into unemployment and poverty, these selected few enjoy the opportunities to dig deeper into tenders and other forms of self-enrichment schemes. Crime, gender-based violence, and femicide has undermined the rights to freedom and security of our people as enshrined in the Constitution. Our women and children are not safe in our country. They live in fear as they are brutalized and murdered by people closer to them. The women of our country who dedicated their lives in the struggle for freedom are watching with disdain and disappointment as the human rights of our women are violated almost every minute in our country. Our farm workers in our country do not enjoy the rights to land, dignity, life, and to fair treatment at the workplace because of the many abuses they are being subjected into by some farm owners. Our students at tertiary institutions and universities every year, they are subjected to begin the academic year with protest in the quest for free education. The scenes that we witness in our tertiary institutions as students protest in demand for free education is an embarrassment. Our security personnel must be properly trained on professional methods of handling protest in a manner that does not use unnecessary excessive force, which usually result to the loss of life. The death of the mistakenly Mthokozi Sintumba at the hands of the police was unfortunate and a disgrace. Honorable Speaker, we cannot deal with the subject of human rights without addressing the plight of multitude who still long for the day when they will have access to clean water and sanitation. And indeed, up to now, we still have communities who are trapped in unhealthy conditions in informal settlements of our province. When people are made to wait unreasonably, and the wait is not rewarded properly over time through tangible services that are much desired, this has a potential of causing great chaos in the system of our governance. The founding leaders of this democracy spelled out a dream of every citizen's right to have an environment that is not harmful to their health or well-being. The same leaders will be embarrassed if they were to witness the plight of communities in South Durban Basin, Wentworth, Meerwend, Bluff, Mobeni, Ispingo, Umlazi, and Ezimbogodweni. These communities, like many others in KwaZulu-Natal, have been sentenced to slow death through dangerous and toxic fumes that they inhale almost daily, whether they like it or not. They put up with unbearable smell, some very dangerous, resulting from the garbage in areas of Mayville, Chesterville, Catocres, Umlazi, Lamontville, Guamashu, Msunduzi, Hambanati, and many others, predominantly black areas in our province. Honorable Speaker, while there are a lot of good things that have been achieved since 1994, the above issues show an unfortunate picture of KwaZulu-Natal since we crossed over to democracy. The IFP is more determined to struggle with all South Africans to bring an end to this state of affairs. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next member for 4 minutes on behalf of the DA is Honorable B. Singh.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Human Rights Day historically commemorates the Sharpeville massacre during the apartheid era, a day sorely remembered. But if we fast forward to 2021, what are the notable and significant changes that have been actioned to ensure equal and fair human rights to all South Africans? Sadly, the answer to this is minimal. As of today in South Africa, I can honestly say we see humans but no humanity. The eThekwini municipality has a fancy marketing slogan stating that by 2030, eThekwini will be Africa's most caring and livable city. Can they justify that in 9 years, standards will be increased to ensure that basic human rights are met? Their marketing is more of a publicity stunt when in actuality, they are indeed going backwards. Human rights extend beyond just food and people, and a policy that eThekwini has passed, where only 1% of minorities, the Indians, Coloureds, and whites, would receive housing. Only 1%. That means for every 10 people, only one race of that minority would receive an RDP home. Had housing been consistent since the end of apartheid, we would not find ourselves in such a situation where houses are rationed, yet still the lack of service delivery speak volumes. This in itself is a direct violation of basic human rights. Leaning into other areas of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we also have the Ugu district and the Mkanyekude district. There are major water crises. This is a direct violation to the citizens of those districts. Water outages and water cuts have become the norm, and there is lack of accountability in each municipality on what goes on regarding the basic necessity which is essential to human rights to all individuals. In Amtatuze municipality, Richards Bay, there is also a policy where minorities are not allowed to receive permits to be informal traders. This denies them the right to operate their business, earn an income, and sustain their families. This notion is based on racialistic lines where the minorities do not benefit, and in turn, this needs urgent attention, Madam Speaker, is the occupants of the town hall in the Moi Mpofana municipality. These residents have been promised housing after their hostels burned down years ago, and yet nothing has been done about it. Their living conditions are inhumane and robs them of their dignity as human beings. Municipalities are sadly punishing our people for trying to access basic human rights such as water, food, and shelter, and their dignity. For this reason, we have seen widespread unrest across communities because they are repeatedly being denied of things that our so-called democratic government promised over 20 years ago. Somewhere along the way over the past 2 decades, government-led programs were engulfed with endemic corruption, which is the reason why funds supposedly allocated never made it to where it needs to be used. Let us reflect for a moment on the crisis that hit us globally. The COVID-19 pandemic, which is running in its second year, it is not so. The lack of vaccines is denying all South Africans their basic right to healthcare. How do we place our trust in a system that is flawed and marred by blatant corruption, which not only denies the citizens of their human rights, but robs each and every resident of this country of their dignity? The citizens of South Africa are made to be fools, while their puppet masters in government are pulling the strings on their puppets to control an entire nation to only benefit the elite, while minorities and the poverty-stricken are left to fend for themselves, as if they have gone back to time in the apartheid era. This is an embarrassment to the ANC in KZN. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The next speaker for 6 minutes on behalf of EFF is Honorable A.V. Khoza.
Ngiyabonga Somlomo. Sibonge ukuthola leli thuba sibingelele koza kwethu nendlu yonke. Njengoba sizokwethula lenkulumo ekhuluma mayelana namalungelo esintu nabantu. It is 27 years of democracy. We dare to say that of a fake democracy. We are saying this is fake democracy because our people have never or are still yet to taste human rights. With a constitution that was negotiated, a constitution that cemented white domination and sealed the status quo, leaving the inequalities intact, we dare to say it was fake democracy. The party in government entrusted with liberating our people has abdicated its responsibility to govern. Standing here, Somlomo, I can say without any fear of contradiction that black people in South Africa are still to experience human rights. Here's why we say so as the EFF. Land is still in the hands of white people. Black people are still landless, trapped in squatter camps, and packed like sardines in very unhealthy conditions. Farm dwellers are still denied land tenure rights. Abasebenzi basemaplazini baphathiswa okwezilwane, basetshenziswa okwezigqila, amabhunu abaxoshe uma ethanda. They are still being shot and murdered in farms, and the excuse is that no, we thought we were shooting at baboons, dogs, and monkeys, and these white farmers get away with it. Somlomo, women and children are living and walking in the shadow of death every day. They are brutally raped and murdered, and the government doesn't seem to care enough to do anything tangible to deal with the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. Workers are denied their labor rights. When they protest, they are brutally shot and murdered. We've seen it in Marikana and in many other places. Where are their labor rights and human rights? Service delivery is unheard of in many places, or it is substandard, particularly where the poorest of the poor are residing. And when people are protesting lack of service delivery, they are shot at and murdered by the state. Evidence is that of people of Motutlu, Andri Statane, and many other people that were murdered by the state purely for demanding their rights. Today, our children are denied tertiary education because this government is refusing to give them a basic right to education. When we call for free, decolonized education, children are met with brutality and they are murdered. It is the same state that murdered Mthokozi Sintumba, and it must be mentioned that those bullets that killed Mthokozi Sintumba were meant for unarmed students that had to be shot and killed just because they demanded education. Our children still attend schools with pit latrines, and there's no sanitation, and we expect them to grow up to be model citizens. Places like Emeiville, Emijondolo, many townships like Msunduze, waste collection and waste collection and waste removal is just history, something that people dream about. It doesn't happen, and people don't care, and they are subjected to stay in filthy, unhygienic condition. Lento somlomo yenza ukuthi umuntu ayibuze ukuthi kanti lenkululeko esikhuluma ngayo iyini. Ingakho sithi akuyona inkululeko, it's fake freedom under a fake constitution, under a fake bill of rights, because the liberation movement abdicated its responsibility to rule. I cannot believe that in a country that is run by supposedly a black government, it still remains the most unequal society in the world 27 years later. There is no agency in trying to reverse the patterns of apartheid. Only a few elite that has elevated itself to be rulers at the expense of the black people. No human rights.
The next speaker for 2 minutes is Honorable V.R. Mlotshwa of the NFP. He had tendered an apology. Now we'll go to the next speaker for 9 minutes on behalf of the ANC is the Honorable N.M. Sibiya, MEC for Public Works and Human Settlements.
Speaker, am I audible?
Yes, Honorable MEC, you are audible. Switch on your video. Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, Honorable Premier in his absentia, the guests that are part of this debate, and yourself, our very important Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me start by addressing some few issues here before I continue. I think it's for the interest of this province and the people of this province. There are issues that were raised on this in this debate. Before I get into my debate, the Umongameli, the president of the official opposition in this province, Ubaba Uhlabisa, with all due respect, Babu Uhlabisa, I would have to attend to some of the things that we have raised here. Ubaba Uhlabisa is talking about the selected few that is benefiting in this province and the country through tender system. Honorable Speaker, I think it's very unbecoming and a fallacy that a president will talk about such a thing, which we know very well that when you go to IFP municipalities, when you talk about people who are benefiting in tender system in those municipalities, we can narrate and write a list of IFP people who are the only ones who are benefiting in tender system, in tenders that are in those municipalities. But also, Honorable Speaker, I think it's important that we must also address the issue that he raised when he spoke about fighting against farm dweller abuse. It's you know, if the IFP is honest in this debate, let the IFP join us. I call on the IFP to support the land expropriation without compensation, because the abuse of farm dwellers is about the land. So they must stop talking left and walking right. Let them come to us, join our call, be part and parcel of amending Section 25, rather than standing with those who are abusing farm dwellers. It will help all of us if we do it as a collective, because they are on the other side. They are not fighting for farm dwellers. It's easy to debate than to walk the talk. I'm asking you, Mongameli, bring the IFP on board. Let us make sure that we amend Section 25. We give farm dwellers land, because currently they don't have land. That's why it's easy to abuse them. Again, quite a lot of things were said by Umongameli. In fact, talking about some historic things that happened in this province and the country. Honorable Speaker, he spoke about the issues of water, electricity, and other developmental and service delivery programs. But let us remind each other that this province, since 1975 to 2004, that is 46 years, Honorable Speaker, 46 years. The least I say, the better, because in 46 years, nothing was done. I was staying under KwaZulu government, which was under IFP, and let me tell you, we had no electricity, we had no water, our schools had no desk, we were paying in schools, in mud schools, we had nothing, we had no roads. So I'm saying it's always good that we work together with the official opposition in building this country. I know Mongameli will help us to build this country together. But let me come to the DA. They are talking about the puppet masters that are pulling the strings, referring to the INC. Let us remind them, let us tell them, it's you in the DA who are the puppets. It's you who are suffering every day, marching under the very hot sun. During apartheid, you suffered, but it's you each and every day who come back and vote the minority whites, racists that are in the DA, while you are the ones who continue to suffer because they are our masters. We are controlled by them. You continue suffering even today. You are rejecting black leaders. Zwagale Mngwango is one of those. They had another leader that they wanted to support to lead in KwaZulu-Natal, and you are isolating them. you continue voting whites in the DA to lead the DA, because whites to you represent everything that is good. They are your masters. They still continue to control you. That's why today in KwaZulu-Natal, we are nothing, but we are just number 3. We are no longer in official opposition. And believe you me, you will be sliding down to number 4 and you will be wiped off in this province, because the ANC will make sure that we wipe off the DA in this province. And the EFF, I don't want to call him a leader, because he's not a leader. You can only call a leader someone who will talk sense and debate with capacity and with superior logic. And there is none when it comes to the EFF person who was debating here. Speaks about fake democracy. The very same person who's talking about fake democracy, Honorable Speaker, is the beneficiary of the very same democracy. He's standing is debating today because he benefited in the very same democracy that he calls fake. He's the very same person who's part and parcel of the system. If he says it's fake democracy, why are they part of the system? Let us remind you, Honorable Speaker, how soon can we forget who are these people? Their leader, they are being led by a toy CIC. A little toy super CIC, who is just having a malva pudding spinal cord with no backbone. They change like a chameleon, depending on the environment they find themselves in. They've got no position. Today they will insult you, tomorrow they praise you. That is the EFF. They are non-starters. They just don't have any principle. They are not being driven by principle, except being howling, insulting, but also being populist. And there is nothing, Honorable Speaker, that our people can expect from the EFF. That's why he's raising the issues of farmers, raising the issues of land. Those are the issues that we assist with. Section 25 will be amended very soon. We were with farmers. Honorable Ngube Dube raised it very well, because they are not listening wherever they are. They didn't hear that. We assist with those matters, and we are very firm in making sure that we are going to change how things are. Last month, Honorable Speaker, we celebrated the Human Rights Month, the very rights that were ushered by non-racial democratic dispensation almost 27 years ago under the leadership of the ANC. The journey for a non-racial democratic order that is buttressed by a strong culture of human rights has not been an easy one or a walk in the park, but has been characterized by blood, tears, and sweats of many fallen heroes and heroines of our noble struggle for a just order and a just cause. Among such heroes, whom we're remembering just this past Saturday, is the fallen South African Communist Party Secretary General, General Secretary Martin Tembisile, fondly known to many as Krizani, who was also the Chief of Staff of Umkhonto weSizwe, our glorious army. Very few people know that a distantly heinous assassination of Comrade Hani almost plunged this beautiful country of ours into a bloody civil war. It was the untimely and painful demise of Comrade Krizani in 1993 that jolted the CODESA talks to come with historic date of the 27th April 1994 inaugural non-racial democratic elections. At the time of his assassination, Comrade Krizani had been fighting for peace amongst our people who were victims of internecine violence fermented by apartheid regime, as it was helplessly clinging to power in its dying days. Honorable Speaker, Krizani, the leader of the Communist Party and the ANC, died fighting for a Bill of Rights to be enshrined in our Constitution so that it could enjoin all of us to work towards a peaceful, harmonious South Africa.
Honorable MEC, your time is up.
The time was very little, but
the next speaker for NF is Honorable Esther Takur Rajpanzi for 2 minutes. Honorable Takur Rajpanzi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members. The Minority Front celebrates this Human Rights Day by celebrating the life of Charlotte Maxeke. This was a resilient woman who continues to inspire thousands of women during times of fear, anxiety, inner turmoil, reaching the depths of a woman's psyche in such a transformational manner that reliving her journey, its impact and metamorphosis enables women today to embark on their journey with determination, perseverance, and focused passion. Honorable members, Honorable Durban reminded us all of the 3 a.m. breakthrough at Kodesa about the inner and yet the inner workings of that breakthrough. We only know because Madiba had come to our Chatsworth House in 2001 to personally thank the late Mr. A. Rajvansi for his role in this. As honorable members, our lives are certainly not without challenges. We have heard during the LGBTQI symposium last Friday that this vulnerable minority community wants their rights entrenched as per the Bill of Rights in our Constitution. As a legislature, we must become more gender responsive and let KZN be the first province to change laws to ensure that our buildings have gender neutral toilets where dignity that ablution facilities gives humans is a personal, real, and inalienable right. There are other examples of changing land ownership, like the bill we passed recently. But what about other land? What about women who need to own land, who are single mothers, who are widows? And if the government can confer this as a real right, this will free our women economically. This will grow our economy. This will never burden our economy. In terms of women's reproductive and other health rights, we must remember then that Johannesburg General Hospital was changed to Charlotte Macquarie Hospital because this is an academic institution of excellence. And like our former late Minister Mantu Shabalala said, that we must learn to go to our public hospitals and not private hospitals. This will give us our human rights.
The next speaker is for 2 minutes, Honorable M.E. Pakati of the ATM. Honorable Pakati. We will move to the next speaker on the order paper for 2 minutes. Honorable S.E. Manqele for ACDP.
Somlomo nabo bonke ubuholi beParliament i-ACDP iyakuthokozela kakhulu ukuba khona kwama-human rights. Kona lawo ma-human rights abukeka engemahle emehlweni kaNkulunkulu. Nathi njenge-ACDP asiwathokozeli. Yonke i-human right uma uyibuka nje bese uyobuka izwi likaNkulunkulu bese kuba khona la okubonakala khona kuyashayisana. Thina njenge-ACDP siye singakuthokozeli lokho-ke. I-freedom of association ne-freedom of expression isiphathe kahle kakhulu, kodwa kwasimangaza Somlomo uma ijaji elikhulu uMogoeng ekhuleka noma esho imizwa yakhe njengesakhamuzi sase-South Africa, bese kuba khona abantu abaningi abamhlaselayo abashona ukuthi akaphume esikhundleni. Izitha zama-human rights esikhulu kakhulu Somlomo ibhamu lezi ezingaqoqeki egcwele eSouth Africa. Ebesingacela ukuthi mhlambe ibe khona indlela uhulumeni ayenzayo ukuthi iqoqeke. Bese kuthi nalabo bantu Somlomo abenza izinto ezilimaza abantu besifazane nezingane ngabomu bethathelwe inyathelo ethe ukuqina kunabantu abenza amanye amacala nje. Njengokuthi nje kube bekungenzeka bekufanele bakhelwe into engcono kunokuhlonishwa kwemilo. Mhlambe ke bekhelwa amajele bona beboshwe bese kuthi ukuqinisa umthetho ekuboshweni kwabo kuthi ukuthanjiswa amanye ama-human rights. Okunye ke sihlalo Somlomo kubonakala ukuthi isigwebo sentambo ngeke inisa revise. Ngiyabonga.
The next speaker for 4 minutes on behalf of the Democratic Alliance is Honorable L.M. Mayor.
Thank you, Speaker. Sorry about the camera. Thank you, Speaker, and Ramadan Mubarak to our Muslim citizens. Imagine, if you will, having to hide who you are every day just to make sure you can get through the day alive. Imagine, if you will, not being able to show your affection to the person you love to protect yourselves from emotional and physical abuse. This sadly remains the life experience of many of the people in our province. The period of celebrating human rights in South Africa was one of mixed emotions for the LGBTIQ community in our province. We watched with a sense of justice as the murderer of Lyndon Kele was sentenced to 25 years for the sickening murder of this young man who dared to live life his own way. A young man who dared to be who he is. Lindo was protected by the Constitution, but the Constitution could not save his life on that terrible day in 2020. But justice did in the end prevail, and what the judge called a hate crime sentence was passed. But just the very next day, the LGBTIQ plus community was again thrown into shock with yet another murder, again